The massive alien ship appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's orbital monitors showed nothing unusual. The next, a vessel larger than anything humans had ever built hung silently above the planet. Its surface gleamed with a metallic blue, sheen that seemed to shift colors as it moved into position. Inside the Pentagon's Emergency Command Center, Admiral Jack Morrison stared at the high-resolution images with a mixture of awe and dread. At 62, he had spent 4 decades preparing Earth's defenses against potential threats, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Status report," he demanded, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "No aggressive actions detected, sir," Lieutenant Samantha Reed replied, fingers flying across her console. "They're maintaining a stationary orbit. No weapons seem to be active, but our sensors can barely penetrate their hull." The Admiral nodded grimly. "And communications?" "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, sir, in perfect English." The room fell silent. The alien vessel had bypassed all of Earth's early warning systems, appeared without detection, and now was broadcasting in a human language. The implications were disturbing. "Put it through," Morrison ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a tall humanoid figure with blue-tinted skin and large, almost luminous eyes. The being wore what appeared to be a uniform of some kind, adorned with unfamiliar symbols. "People of Earth," the alien spoke, its voice resonating with an odd harmonic quality. "I am Ambassador Zartul of the Galactic Hegemony. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations with your world." Within hours, the United Nations Security Council had convened an emergency session. Representatives from every major nation gathered in New York while the alien ambassador waited patiently in orbit. Susan Bennett, the Secretary General of the UN, had insisted on meeting the aliens on human terms. "If they want to talk, they can come down here like anyone else," she had declared. A surprisingly humble shuttle had departed from the massive vessel and landed at the designated site in Central Park, drawing thousands of onlookers despite security measures. Now, Zartul stood before the assembled world leaders, towering over even the tallest humans by at least a foot. 2 other aliens flanked him, their posture suggesting they served as advisors or guards. The Galactic Hegemony represents over 300 intelligent species across 5,000 worlds, Zartul explained, his voice amplified through the chamber. "For 50,000 of your Earth years, we have maintained peace and prosperity throughout known space." Susan Bennett listened carefully, noting the subtle emphasis on the word maintained. As a career diplomat, she had developed a keen ear for nuance. "We have observed your world for some time," the alien continued. "Your technology is primitive by our standards, but your cultural and genetic diversity is remarkable. We come to offer you membership in our Grand Alliance." The chamber erupted in whispers and murmurs. "And what would this membership entail?" Bennett asked, her voice cutting through the noise. "Access to our technology, our trade networks, our knowledge, and our protection," Zartul replied smoothly. "Your world would prosper beyond your imagination." "And if we decline?" Bennett's question was direct. The alien's secondary eyelids flickered, a gesture no human could yet interpret. Most species see the wisdom in joining willingly. The threat beneath the flowery words was not lost on anyone in the room. When the session ended, the alien delegation returned to their ship. Earth's leaders remained behind, locked in heated debate. In a secure conference room beneath the UN building, military and intelligence leaders from around the world gathered to assess the situation. Jack Morrison represented the United States, while Intelligence Officer Kate Wilson presented her findings. "From what we can tell, the Hegemony vessel is essentially a small city in space," Wilson explained, displaying the scans they had managed to collect. "Our best estimates suggest a crew of several thousand. Their technology is centuries beyond ours." "Can we fight them?" asked General Pedro Martinez, representing Brazil's armed forces. Morrison shook his head. "Not conventionally. That ship could probably take everything we throw at it and barely register the impact. We've intercepted some of their transmissions," Wilson continued. "Most are encrypted beyond our ability to decode, but the patterns suggest they're communicating with other Vessels outside our solar system, so there are more of them nearby, Morrison muttered. That's not all, Wilson added. The decoded fragments hint at something disturbing. They refer to Earth as a Type 3 acquisition. We don't know what that means. In another part of the complex, scientist Alan Parker was making a discovery that would change everything. Working with biological samples collected from the landing site, microscopic particles left behind by the alien delegation, he noticed something unusual. Their cellular structure is similar to ours in basic ways, he explained to his colleague, Dr. Helen Jones. But their neural cells are fundamentally different. Different how? Jones asked, peering through the microscope. Their synaptic connections are more efficient in some ways but less adaptable, Parker said, excitement building in his voice. I think this might explain something important. He pulled up data from human brain scans on a nearby screen. Look at the difference in neuroplasticity. Humans can form new neural pathways throughout our lives at a rate that appears to be unusual. What are you suggesting? Jones asked. I think we adapt faster than they do, Parker replied. Not just mentally, but technologically. Look at how quickly we've advanced in the last century alone. If the hegemony has been stable for 50,000 years, they might be stagnant, Jones finished the thought. Above them, the massive alien ship maintained its position, patient and seemingly invulnerable. But across Earth, humanity was doing what it had always done best, analyzing, adapting, preparing. In Diao, Washington, D.C., President Laura Harris received the first reports from the scientific and intelligence communities. She sat alone in the Oval Office reading through the preliminary findings. The hegemony had given Earth 1 month to decide on their offer of membership. But the encrypted transmissions that Kate Wilson had partially decoded suggested that refusal was not truly an option. Other civilizations had apparently tried to maintain their independence. None had succeeded. The president reached for the secure phone that would connect her to other world leaders. Humanity needed time and unity if they were to have any hope. Outside, the setting sun cast long shadows across the White House lawn. In orbit, stars began to appear against the blackness of space, along with the unwelcome visitor that had changed everything in a single day. The clock was ticking. Earth had 1 month to prepare for a decision that might determine its survival. The alien ship had been in orbit for 3 days. On Earth, people tried to continue their normal lives, but the knowledge that visitors from another world watched from above changed everything. News channels showed the same footage over and over, the sleek blue vessel hanging against the blackness of space. Deep within that vessel, a small figure moved quickly through narrow corridors. Kirnar was not supposed to be in this section of the ship. As a navigator from the subjugated world, a Vexer, he was restricted to the lower decks. But over years of service, he had learned how to move unnoticed through the massive ship. Kirnar's species resembled humans in basic shape, though his skin had a greenish tint and his eyes were larger, adapted for the dim light of his homeworld. He carried something small and crystal-like in his hand, gripping it tightly as if afraid it might vanish. You're taking a great risk, whispered Mela, another Vexoran, who waited at a junction in the corridor. Her role as a communications technician gave her slightly more freedom of movement. If they catch you with that data crystal? They won't, Kirnar replied, though fear made his voice shake. And the humans need to know the truth. The truth was something the hegemony kept carefully hidden. Kirnar's own world had faced the same choice Earth now confronted, join willingly or be conquered. Vexer had tried to maintain independence. The result had been devastating. His parents had told him stories of the resistance, how the hegemony had destroyed major cities from orbit before landing troops, how they had taken the strongest Vexorans as laborers and soldiers, drafted into the very force that subjugated others. 50 years later, his people were still treated as second-class members of the peaceful empire. The diplomatic shuttle leaves in 20 minutes, Mela said, checking a small device on her wrist. Are you sure about this? Kirnar nodded. I have to try. On Earth, Navy Commander Olivia Hayes waited at the designated landing zone for the alien shuttle. This was the 3rd diplomatic visit since first contact. The aliens had requested to see different parts of Earth. This time, they wanted to observe a naval base in San Diego. Hayes suspected they were assessing Earth's military capabilities. The shuttle descended silently, far more graceful than any human aircraft. When the door opened, 3 blue-skinned hegemony officials emerged, followed by their aides, smaller aliens of various species who carried equipment and took notes. Hayes noticed one aide who seemed nervous, a greenish-skinned humanoid who kept looking around as if afraid. When the group toured the base, this aide stayed at the back of the procession. During a moment when the hegemony officials were distracted by questions from Earth's diplomatic team, the green-skinned alien approached Hayes. "Commander," he whispered, his accent making the English word sound strange. "I must speak with you. Alone. It's about the true nature of the hegemony." Hayes kept her face neutral, years of military training helping her hide her surprise. "Follow standard procedure," she replied quietly. "Restroom break in 10 minutes." The alien nodded slightly and fell back into line. Exactly 10 minutes later, Hayes directed the tour group to a rest area. As expected, various members of the delegation excused themselves. The green alien slipped into a supply closet instead of the restroom. Hayes waited 30 seconds, then followed. "I don't have much time," the alien said as soon as the door closed. "My name is Kirnar. My world was invited to join the Hegemony 60 of your years ago." "What happened?" Hayes asked. "They destroyed our major cities when we refused. They took our resources, our people." He pressed something into her hand, a small crystal that seemed to glow from within. "This contains the true history of the Hegemony's expansion. The data is encrypted, but I've included the key. Your scientists should be able to access it." Hayes slipped the crystal into her pocket. "Why are you helping us?" "Because there is a resistance, even within the hegemony. Small, hidden, but growing." Kirnar's large eyes seemed to shine with emotion. "Earth is different. Your species adapts quickly. If any world can break the pattern, it might be yours." Before Hayes could ask more questions, they heard voices approaching. Kirnar tensed. "I must go. They will notice my absence soon. The crystal contains everything you need to know." 2 hours later, the alien delegation returned to their shuttle and departed for the orbiting ship. Kirnar had managed to blend back into the group without raising alarms. As soon as they were gone, Hayes contacted a secure military line. "Sir, I need immediate transport to meet with Dr. William Green." Dr. Green was Earth's leading xenobiologist, currently working at a secure facility in Colorado. When Hayes arrived, she found the scientist hunched over a workstation, analyzing tissue samples collected from the landing sites. "Commander Hayes," he greeted her, looking up from his work. His tired eyes and rumpled clothes suggested he hadn't slept much since the aliens arrived. "What brings you here?" Hayes locked the door and activated the room's security protocols before taking the crystal from her pocket. "I need you to help me analyze this." Green's eyes widened. "Is that alien technology?" "Yes, given to me by one of the hegemony's subject species. He claims it contains information about their true history." Working together through the night, Hayes and Green managed to access the data on the crystal. What they found confirmed their worst fears. The hegemony had a long history of conquering worlds that refused to join willingly. The pattern was always the same: offer membership, then use overwhelming force against those who declined. "Look at this," Green said, pointing to a section of data. "Previous resistors, worlds that tried to fight back." Hayes studied the information. "They all fell eventually. Yes, but there's a pattern here." Green pulled up more files. Worlds with unified governments tended to surrender quickly after a show of force. But worlds with fragmented political systems, multiple nations like Earth has fought harder. They still lost, Hayes noted grimly. They did, but they caused more damage to the hegemony forces. And look at this data on resistance duration based on technological adaptation rates. The crystal contained performance metrics on how quickly different species adapted to new technologies. Humans ranked surprisingly high, among the top 10% of all known species. So we're quick learners, Hayes said. Will that be enough? Maybe not alone, Green replied. But combined with our political structure and this advance warning, he didn't finish the sentence, but Hayes understood. Earth had a chance, small but real. As dawn broke over the facility, Hayes contacted General Frank Martinez, head of Earth's Unified Defense Command. Within hours, leaders from around the world would receive carefully selected information from the crystal. In orbit, the massive hegemony ship continued its silent watch, unaware that its secrets were being exposed. Earth had 27 days left to prepare for a confrontation that would determine its future. 20 days until the deadline, the nations of Earth worked together with unprecedented unity. Old enemies set aside their differences as the information from Kirnar's crystal spread among world leaders. For once, humanity faced a threat greater than their own conflicts. In a secret underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, scientists Diane Clark and Eric Johnson led a team working around the clock. The room hummed with activity as researchers from dozens of countries collaborated on what might be humanity's most important project. "Pass me that component," Diane said, not looking up from her workstation. At 35, she was one of the world's leading experts in quantum computing. Her fingers moved quickly over a strange device, part human technology, part reverse-engineered from samples of alien materials. Eric slid the small metallic object across the table. He was older, with gray streaking his dark hair, and specialized in weapons development. "The power coupling is unstable," he warned. "We need to keep it below 60% or it might overload." "I know," Diane replied. "But if we can't get it to at least 55, it won't penetrate their shields." The device they worked on was one of dozens being developed in similar facilities around the world. Each represented humanity's best attempt to adapt alien technology for defense. Progress was faster than anyone had expected, partly thanks to Kirnar's data crystal, which contained basic information about hegemony technology. But more surprising was how quickly the human scientists were improvising, finding ways to combine their own technology with alien concepts. They weren't just copying, they were innovating. In Anicentia, the command center above the lab, Admiral Morrison watched the work through a window. Next to him stood Kate Wilson, who had been analyzing the strategic information from the crystal. "How much time do they need?" Morrison asked. "More than we have," Wilson answered honestly. "But they're making progress. The real question is whether the hegemony suspects what we're doing." Up in orbit, the alien vessel maintained its silent vigil. Every few days, a shuttle would descend for what Ambassador Zartul called cultural exchange, visits to different regions of Earth. In reality, they were reconnaissance missions, assessing Earth's capabilities and weaknesses. What the aliens didn't know was that humans were conducting reconnaissance of their own. During each visit, small devices planted by Special Forces teams collected data on the alien shuttles. Their propulsion systems, communication frequencies, even atmospheric content. Lisa Wright led these Special Forces operations. A compact woman, with short brown hair and intense focus, she had assembled a team of the best soldiers from around the world. They worked in absolute secrecy, their missions known only to a handful of military leaders. On this day, Lisa and her team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. They gathered in a secure room at a naval base in Japan, reviewing holographic projections of the alien shuttle. "Our window is 5 minutes," Lisa explained to her team. "We place the devices here, here, and here." She pointed to key areas on the shuttle's exterior. "The data we collect will help us understand their main vessel's weak points." A soldier named Paul raised his hand. "What if they detect us?" "They shouldn't be able to," Lisa replied. "The devices are passive until activated, remotely. But if something goes wrong," she didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew the stakes. Hours later, as the alien shuttle landed for a visit to Tokyo, Lisa's team executed their plan flawlessly. The tiny devices, no larger than grains of rice, attached to the shuttle's hull. When the aliens departed, they carried the human surveillance technology back to their ship. In Washington, D.C., President Laura Harris met with military and scientific advisors. The Oval Office had been swept for listening devices 3 times that day. "What's our status?" she asked General Frank Martinez. The general placed a tablet on the desk. "We're dispersing our forces as quietly as possible. Submarines are at maximum deployment. Our space-based assets have been repositioned to minimize vulnerability. And the special projects? Proceeding faster than expected. Dr. Clark believes the SHIELD technology may be partially operational within 10 days. The president nodded. She looked tired but determined. "What about our guest?" By guest, she meant Kirnar. After passing the crystal to Commander Hayes, the alien had requested asylum. It was a complicated situation, keeping him hidden from the hegemony while gaining his knowledge. "He's secure," Martinez assured her, "and cooperative. His insights into hegemony tactics have been invaluable." Across the ocean, in a military facility near Geneva, Kirnar sat with Commander Hayes and Dr. Green. They showed him images of Earth's developing defense systems. "Your progress is remarkable," the alien said, his large eyes blinking in surprise. "My people took 3 times as long to adapt similar technology when we found it." "You mentioned that humans have unusual neurological patterns," Green said. "We think it gives us an advantage in processing and applying new concepts." Kirnar nodded. "The hegemony values stability above all. They adopt new technologies slowly, carefully testing them for decades before implementation. It makes them powerful but predictable. And that's a weakness we can exploit," Hayes noted. While Earth's leaders planned defense, ordinary citizens continued their lives, most unaware of the frantic preparations happening in secret facilities. The public had been told that negotiations with the aliens were progressing well. Only a need-to-know group understood the truth. In New York, Secretary General Susan Bennett maintained diplomatic communications with Zartul, carefully balancing politeness with subtle delays. Each day she bought was critical for Earth's preparations. "We look forward to continuing our cultural exchange," she told the alien ambassador during a video conference. "Our people are fascinated by the art forms you've shared from across the galaxy." "I'm pleased to hear that," Zartul replied, his face unreadable to human eyes. "But we must soon discuss more substantial matters. Your world's deadline approaches." "Of course," Bennett said smoothly. "We're still consulting with all nations. Earth's governance is complex, as you know." What Bennett didn't say was that Earth's nations had already made their decision. They would not surrender their independence. The question was not whether they would fight, but how. 15 days remained until the deadline. In orbit, the alien ship received a transmission from deeper in space. Reinforcements were on the way. 3 more hegemony vessels approaching the solar system. Standard procedure for difficult acquisitions. But on Earth, something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in human history, the entire planet was united in purpose. Scientists shared discoveries instantly across borders. Military forces coordinated globally. From the largest nations to the smallest, humans prepared to defend their home. In the underground lab, Diane Clark activated the prototype shield generator. The air shimmered as energy formed a dome over the test area. "It works," she whispered, then louder. "It works." Eric Johnson checked the readings. "Power consumption is within acceptable parameters. We can scale this up." They had just created Earth's first defense against weapons that could destroy cities from orbit. It wasn't enough yet, but it was a start. The countdown to confrontation continued. The day of the deadline arrived. For a month, Earth had prepared in secret while maintaining diplomatic conversations. Now, the waiting was over. 3 additional hegemony warships had arrived in the solar system, joining the original vessel in Earth orbit. From space, they formed a threatening diamond pattern over the planet. In the United Nations General Assembly Hall, representatives from every nation gathered. The room buzzed with tension. Secretary General Susan Bennett took her place at the podium as a larger-than-life hologram of Ambassador Zartul appeared before the assembly. "People of Earth," the alien's voice boomed through the hall. "The time for deliberation has ended. The galactic hegemony requires your answer. Bennett stood, tall, her gray hair neatly pinned back, her expression calm despite the gravity of the moment. Behind her serene face, she knew what was happening all around the world. Final preparations being made, civilians moving to shelter locations, military forces taking positions. Ambassador Zartul, she said clearly, on behalf of the nations of Earth, I thank you for your offer of membership in the galactic hegemony. She paused, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Earth has decided to respectfully decline membership at this time. Murmurs swept through the assembly, despite the fact that the decision had been made days ago. We wish to maintain our independence, Bennett continued, while establishing peaceful trade and cultural exchange with the hegemony and other galactic civilizations. The alien's expression darkened. The secondary eyelids that humans had learned to recognize as a sign of displeasure flickered rapidly. You misunderstand, Zartul said, his harmonious voice now carrying an edge. This was not truly a choice. The hegemony requires your resources, your strategic position, and your biological diversity. Prepare your world for integration or face cleansing. The threat hung in the air. Bennett had expected it, but hearing it spoken so coldly still sent a chill down her spine. Ambassador, she replied steadily, Earth chooses neither integration nor cleansing. We choose independence. We hope you will respect our decision. Zartul's hologram vanished without another word. In orbit, the hegemony fleet moved into attack formation. Their weapon systems powered up, targeting Earth's major cities and military installations. To them, the outcome seemed assured. They had conquered hundreds of worlds with this same tactic. Admiral Jack Morrison stood in Earth's unified command center, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around him, military leaders from around the world monitored the situation. Massive screens showed the positions of the alien vessels and Earth's defense systems. They're powering weapons, reported Kate Wilson, who now coordinated Earth's intelligence operations. Energy signatures match what we saw in the data from Kirnar. They'll target major population centers first. Morrison nodded grimly. Status of Umbrella? He asked, using the code name for Earth's shield network. 86% coverage of primary targets, General Martinez answered. Secondary targets at 60%. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than anyone had expected to achieve in 1 month. The question was whether it would be enough. And slingshot? Morrison asked. Ready on your command, Martinez confirmed. Morrison took a deep breath. Activate defensive protocols. Umbrella up. Slingshot on standby. Around the world, hidden generators. Powered up. The technology reverse-engineered from the alien samples combined with human innovation created shimmering energy fields over major cities and military installations. In orbit, satellites previously disguised as weather and communication equipment revealed their true purpose, forming an additional layer of defense. On the hegemony flagship, Zartul watched with mild curiosity as the primitive planet prepared its defenses. He had overseen dozens of acquisitions in his long career. Some worlds surrendered immediately. Others fought briefly before accepting reality. A few, like this Earth, required a demonstration of power before they understood their situation. Begin the cleansing protocol, he ordered. Target their largest cities first. Energy weapons powered up on all 4 hegemony vessels. Beams of intensely focused particles shot toward Earth, carrying enough energy to level entire metropolitan areas. But something unexpected happened. As the beams hit Earth's atmosphere, they encountered the shield network. The energy dispersed across the shields, causing them to glow brightly but holding firm. Zartul blinked in surprise. Impossible, he muttered. Increase power. Target. They're shield generators. The aliens fired again, this time aiming at power stations and key infrastructure. Some shots broke through where the shield coverage was incomplete, causing destruction, but far less than the hegemony had planned. In the command center, Morrison watched as damage reports came in. Casualties? He asked tensely. Minimal compared to projections, Wilson reported. The shields held against most of it, We're looking at approximately 12% of expected damage. It was still too much. Thousands of lives lost in the initial barrage. But without the shields, millions would have died. Morrison's jaw tightened. "Activate Slingshot," he ordered. Across Earth's oceans, submarines that had quietly positioned themselves over the past weeks launched specially designed missiles. These weren't conventional nuclear weapons. They carried EMP warheads developed using the intelligence gathered from the alien shuttle. As the missiles approached the hegemony ships, they detonated. The electromagnetic pulses were calibrated, specifically to the frequencies used in hegemony technology, based on information from Kirnar and data gathered by Lisa Wright's team. On the alien vessels, systems failed. Weapons went offline. Communications cut out. Not everything was disabled. The hegemony had redundancies, but the attack caught them completely by surprise. "Launch the fighters," Morrison commanded. From hidden bases around the world, Earth's spacecraft took to the skies. They were few in number compared to what the hegemony could deploy, but they carried weapons specifically designed to target weaknesses in the alien ship architecture. Major Steve Hernandez led the first squadron from a base in Nevada. His fighter, a hybrid of human engineering and reverse-engineered alien technology, accelerated faster than any aircraft previously built on Earth. "Eagle Squadron, form up," he ordered over the comm. "Remember your training. Hit the designated. Weak points only." The Earth fighters swarmed toward the disabled hegemony vessels. They focused their attacks on key points identified from Kirnar's data: cooling systems, secondary power nodes, sensor arrays. In the command center, Morrison watched the battle unfold. "It's working," Wilson said, almost disbelieving. "For now," Morrison cautioned, "but they'll adapt." Indeed, the hegemony ships were already restoring systems, bringing weapons back online. They began launching their own fighters, sleek, deadly craft that outnumbered Earth's forces. The real test was just beginning. Earth had survived the first assault, but the hegemony would not be defeated so easily. They had conquered hundreds of worlds over thousands of years. They would not lose to a species they considered primitive. Yet as Morrison looked at the determination on the faces around him, he felt something he hadn't expected: hope. Humanity had united and accomplished in 1 month what should have taken years. They had surprised the hegemony once. Perhaps they could do it again. The battle for Earth had only just begun. The battle raged for 3 days. The skies above Earth became a chaotic field of light and destruction as human fighters clashed with hegemony craft. Despite being outnumbered, Earth's forces fought with unexpected effectiveness. Their adapted technology and tactics confused the aliens, who were used to quick, one-sided conquests. By the 3rd day, Earth had suffered severe losses. 2 major cities had lost shield protection and faced orbital bombardment. Millions of people huddled in underground shelters. But the hegemony had also taken damage. One of their smaller vessels was crippled and drifting, its main systems offline. On the hegemony flagship, Ambassador Zartul could not hide his frustration. He paced the command center, watching tactical displays showing the ongoing battle. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his officers. "They are a pre-spacefaring civilization. Their technology is primitive." "They adapted quickly," replied his second-in-command. "And they had help." The officer displayed images captured from Earth broadcasts. "This is Kirnar of Vexor. He appears to be working with the humans." Zartul's eyes narrowed. "A traitor, but one small world navigator cannot explain this level of resistance." He studied the battle data more carefully. Their shield technology. It's similar to ours, but the modulation patterns are different, more efficient somehow. "Should we call for additional reinforcements?" the officer asked. Zartul hesitated. Calling for more ships would be an admission that a simple acquisition had turned into a costly conflict. It would damage his reputation. Yet the humans were proving surprisingly stubborn. "Yes," he finally decided. "Send the call, and prepare for a full assault on their shield network. We will end this today." In the underground command center, Admiral Morrison and his team watched the hegemony regroup. Their intelligence suggested the aliens were planning something big. "They're targeting our shield generators," Kate Wilson reported. "All 4 ships are moving into position." Morrison studied the tactical display. "Where's our most vulnerable point?" "Denver shield generator," Wilson replied. "It's operating at 60% efficiency after yesterday's attack." Morrison made a quick decision. "Redirect all available power to strengthen Denver's shields, and get me Dr. Clark at the Colorado facility." Diane Clark appeared on a monitor. She looked exhausted, having worked non-stop since the battle began. "Admiral," she greeted him, "we're maintaining shields, but the power drain is substantial." "Doctor, is Project Nova ready?" Clark hesitated. "It's untested, sir. We've only run simulations." "We don't have time for testing," Morrison said grimly. "The hegemony is preparing for a major assault." "Then yes," Clark replied, determination in her voice. "We can deploy Nova within the hour." Project Nova was the most ambitious of Earth's defensive developments. A quantum disruption field that could, in theory, interfere with the hegemony's propulsion technology. It was risky, based on partial understanding of alien science, but it might give Earth an edge. As preparations for Nova proceeded, Major Steve Hernandez led the remaining fighters on a desperate mission. With fewer than 30 craft left from the original 100, they targeted the flagship's communication array. "This is a one-way trip for most of us," he told his pilots. "But if we can disrupt their communications, we buy time for Nova." The small force of human fighters punched through the hegemony's defenses in a suicidal charge. Many were destroyed, but 5 craft, including Hernandez's, reached the massive communication dish on the flagship's hull. They fired everything they had, then crashed deliberately into key points on the structure. Hernandez's last act was to aim his failing craft into the primary transmission node. As his fighter exploded, the entire array collapsed. On the flagship's bridge, alarms sounded as communications went offline. "We've lost contact with the fleet," an officer reported. "And our transmission to headquarters was interrupted." Zartul slammed his hand on the console. "Begin the assault now. Target their main power facilities." But the humans had one more surprise waiting. As the hegemony vessels moved into attack position, Dr. Clark activated Project Nova from her facility in Colorado. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The quantum disruption field expanded from Earth like an invisible wave. When it reached the alien ships, their engines sputtered and failed. The vessels began to drift, unable to maintain their precise attack formation. "What is happening?" Zartul demanded. "Unknown energy field," an officer reported, panic in her voice. "It's affecting our quantum drive systems and weapons targeting." For the first time in his long career, Zartul felt fear. These humans had done what no species had managed before. They had neutralized hegemony technology within weeks of encountering it on Earth. Morrison watched the alien ships drift. "Is this permanent?" he asked Dr. Clark. "No," she replied. "The field will collapse in approximately 20 minutes. We don't have the power to maintain it longer." "Then we use those 20 minutes," Morrison said. He turned to General Martinez. "Launch all remaining missiles. Target their weapon systems and engines." Earth's final barrage struck the disabled hegemony vessels with devastating effect. Without their shields functioning properly, the alien ships suffered unprecedented damage. When the Nova field collapsed, only the flagship still had significant operational capability. The other 3 vessels were effectively disabled. Inside the flagship, Zartul made the hardest decision of his life. "Prepare for emergency jump," he ordered. "We're retreating." "But sir," his second-in-command protested. "The acquisition is a failure," Zartul cut him off. "These humans are different. We'll return with a proper invasion fleet." As the flagship prepared to flee, a final message came through on emergency channels, not from hegemony headquarters, but from across the galaxy. The message was being broadcast on all frequencies to all worlds under hegemony control. It showed images of brutally conquered planets, of species enslaved, of resources stripped from world after world. The message included testimony from Kirnar and other subjugated species, revealing the truth behind the hegemony's peaceful expansion. Someone had broadcast the contents of Kirinar's data crystal to the entire galaxy. Rebellion has erupted. On 16 worlds, Gitter, an officer, reported, horror in her voice. Our forces are being overwhelmed. Zartul stood frozen, watching as his career and the empire he served collapsed around him. The flagship jumped into hyperspace, fleeing Earth with its remaining functional systems. On Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the hegemony's retreat spread. But Admiral Morrison and other leaders knew this wasn't the end. The hegemony would return someday with greater force. 6 months later, a new delegation arrived in Earth orbit, not conquerors, but representatives of a reformed coalition of worlds seeking genuine alliance. Many were former hegemony subjects who had overthrown their masters during the rebellion, sparked by Kirinar's broadcast. Admiral Morrison met with them on humanity's terms. The galaxy has learned an important lesson, he told the new ambassadors. Never try to take Earth. As Earth took its place among the stars, a new saying spread throughout galactic civilizations. There are 3 rules of interstellar diplomacy. 1. Maintain respect for sovereign species. 2. Honor trade agreements. And 3. Most importantly, never, ever try to take Earth. Earth hadn't just defended itself, it had changed the galaxy forever.